heard that asking questions is an important skill in business. Whether we are leading, influencing, or selling, questions are some of the most useful tools available to us. Simply asking more questions is not enough. Different questions yield different results. We must consider our goals and be thoughtful and strategic in the questions we ask. Let's participate in an experiment. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. Please jot down your responses to each question. At the same time as you are making a note of the answers to these questions, make a mental note about what you're thinking about and how you're feeling about each of the questions. Especially notice if your emotional state changes throughout this experiment. Question 1. Do you like this weather? Question 2. Are you from this area? Question 3. Do you enjoy attending virtual meetings? Question 4. Are you wondering about the purpose of this little experiment? Question 5. What challenges do you have when trying to persuade someone who doesn't agree with you? Before we consider your experience in our experiment, let's look at what was involved. There were 5 questions that were a mix of open and closed questions. Closed questions invite a simple answer, often a yes or no response or a brief fact-based answer. They frequently start with words like can, can't, would, wouldn't, are, aren't, is, isn't, do, don't, and does or doesn't. For example, do you like this weather? Are you from this area? Can you run an errand for me? Does that sound good? Is that useful? Wouldn't you agree that it makes sense to ask questions? Isn't it interesting that closed questions are conversation stoppers? With closed questions, the other person can quickly deduce that you are more interested in what you are thinking or that you are trying to sell your idea or solution. Open questions, on the other hand, make a person feel that you're interested in their thoughts. They tend to participate more in discussions and cooperate more in solving problems and making decisions. Open questions begin with the words most commonly associated with investigative reporters: who, what, where, when, how, and why. Open questions tend to result in more lengthy responses. Please reflect on your experience in our little experiment and look at your notes. The first 4 questions asked were closed questions. You probably have a one-word or a very brief response written down for these questions. The 5th question was open-ended. Chances are you didn't even have time to complete the answer to that question in our little experiment because I cut the time off. Open questions take more time and thought. They reveal more information. You were also invited to make a mental note of what you were thinking about during our experiment and how you were feeling. If you're like most people, you may have found yourself bored or your mind wandering with the first 4 questions. With the 5th question, you may have found yourself more engaged and your brain cells firing as you were coming up with a response. This isn't a case of open questions being good and closed questions being bad. We need both in our interactions. Having good judgment on when to use each question is important. Use closed-ended questions when you want to stop a conversation, are checking information, or want to redirect a discussion. Use open-ended questions when you are working with another person to explore a situation, solve a problem, or make a decision. Effective asking does not come naturally to any of us. Watch other Tero Tips videos for specific examples of different types of questions so you can choose the right questions for every situation.